Cowboys OTAs continue, and today there was media availability, and brought us his book to Todd Archer, ESPN, for us here on 105.3 The Fan to talk more about this. And a good afternoon, Todd. How the heck are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Well, it's exciting. You know, we're inside 100 days to camp, hoping the Stars can get a vic tonight, hoping the Rangers can start scoring some runs, but it's good to have Cowboy stuff to talk about. And a lot of the chatter today, Todd, was about Joe Milton. I think it started the presser. How impressed are you with Joe, and what do you think fair expectations are?
He was fine today. You know, I mean, heck, last week I think he had 3 interceptions, so you don't want to get carried away in either direction when they look great in a padless practice and when they look really good. But, yeah, he made some good decisions today. Nice seam throw to Fant. Used his legs a couple times. You know, look, he's clearly the number 2 because Will Greer's really not getting, you know, about a handful of snaps when he's out there, and that's usually with the 3. So they're setting this up for Joe Milton to be the backup. And you know, we talked to him today at his locker, and he was saying all the right things about learning from Dak and how much of a lead, how impressed he's been by Dak and his leadership and first one in, last one out, all the stuff that he does. And, you know, you hope for a little osmosis there, but, you know, he's still a guy who's figuring it out. This isn't like Cooper Rush. We knew what he was, right? We knew what we were going to see in Oxnard. We knew we were going to see when Cooper played in a real game. With Joe Milton, we really don't know, and that's a little different for the Cowboys in the last couple of years with their backup quarterback situation going into it with a question like this. So, but the kid's got talent. You can see his arm and the throws he can make. And again, he was fine today. Missed a throw or two that I remember when I was looking at my notes, but you know, there's a lot to work with there for sure.
Were you able to pick up what the new quarterback cadence is?
No, they were too far away from us, and I mean, whatever it is, if it's not here we go, no one really cares. So yeah, it won't become the viral sensation that thing became a couple of years ago.
Did you get what you were?
He's gonna have to come up with a new thing, isn't he?
Yeah,
you know, he had the hip thing early, and now he had the here we go.
Pressure's on.
They come up with a new thing.
He's quite an influencer. Maybe he'll try winning in the playoffs next, Todd.
Wow, that was you who said that. That wasn't me.
Yeah, that's right. Did you get what you were looking for on that visor question with Shoddy learning from Spurrier? That was fun. I like that story.
Only the hard hitting stuff. Only the hard hitting stuff for me in May. You know, I'm coming with the visor questions. Yeah, I mean, I figured it was some kind of ode to Spurrier as to why he did it, and I thought it was interesting. Like, you know, when he transferred in from KU, and you know, he was the guy responsible for picking up the visor when Spurrier would throw it on the ground. He was there in '96, and they won a national championship and stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit like you're trying to know the coach a little bit and know his personality and draw some info out of him and some stories. And from I'm sure you guys think the same way. The early returns on Schottenheimer press conferences have to be pretty high because we're getting some pretty good stuff and pretty good stories and you know, remember when kind of stuff that we would kind of get under Parcells. We didn't get enough of under Jason. Certainly didn't get enough of that under McCarthy either. But you know, I think Schottenheimer knows how to spin a story a little bit.
Does he get enough credit for being a pretty good player in college? Like, if he hadn't left Kansas, he might have been starting that year, hadn't he?
Well, I'm not. I have to go back and look at my depth chart on the 1994 KU Jayhawks to see where he was.
Yeah. Actually, you put me down the rabbit hole
about this.
You put me down the rabbit hole. I thought you were down there too with me.
No, but I did ask him about it. He's like, when he went to, they were a running offense, and he wanted nothing to really do with that. And they didn't change for him, and that's why he went to Florida to go learn this fun and gun from Spurrier. And but yeah, I couldn't tell you who the Kansas quarter. I couldn't tell you. Man, tell me a Kansas quarterback. Help me out, Broadus. Some guy who's 5'08", 7', 210 or something, or
Todd
Reese. You
Reese.
got some stat on
Yeah,
something.
Todd Riesling, right?
Something like that.
Oh, sure. There we go.
Yeah.
Todd Archer here with you in the GBAG Nation on the Fan.
Archer, you know, the thing I wondered with a coaching change, are there a few players on this roster that kind of got a new lease on life that maybe weren't
That's a good one.
weren't favorites? You know, I mean, When you walk in the locker room, you have such respect in that locker room. Are there a couple of guys that look at you and kind of go, breath of fresh air, that, guys are gone and now I've got a little bit more chance to kind of fight for a job instead of being maybe in the doghouse a little bit?
Well, I would say there's about 3 guys in that locker room who know who I am, so I don't know what kind of respect you think I'm carrying in there. The first guy that came to my mind, because he just got so buried last year, was Damone Clark.
Yeah.
I can't say that he's got a new lease on life and he's going to be part of this linebacker rotation, because they traded for a guy in Murray and they signed a guy in Sanborn, and obviously they have Leafau and they have Overshown coming back from injury, so it's kind of a stacked deck against them. But if the same last year's crew came back, I don't think he'd be on this roster right now. So I guess that technically gives him a new lease on life to show Eberflus, who is a linebacker guy, in Borgonzi, that he might have a chance to do it. Again, he may or may not have a chance to make the roster when you're looking at the numbers on things and who they've added in the draft and who they've signed and traded for. But that was the first guy that came to my mind.
How about these safeties? How about Bell and Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the coaching change really makes a difference on that. Like, I find it weird as we're rolling
Steele?
up on June 1 and maybe – well, no, because he was always going to be their guy.
Well, no, but do you feel like that maybe that Mike Solari, maybe there wasn't always maybe there wasn't the connect that he had with Joe Philbin?
Yeah, but that didn't take away anything from Steele. I guess it may have affected his play, but it didn't affect his playing time.
Sure.
So he was still getting every snap and the starter, and unquestioned that. I think that remains the same. I think he might be a guy on the offensive side of the ball that, you look at and maybe the coaching change benefits him just from a different approach and how they're doing things. But he was going to be, if Solari came back, he was still going to be the starter at right tackle.
Sure.
But here, in the next couple of days, I might be proven wrong. I find it weird that people think Donovan Wilson is going to be a June 1 cut. Like,
yeah,
to me, I've asked around on that, and I get nothing of even close to that thought. Like, he's
but is
one
his
of their
job up?
starters,
Is his job? How about his job? Is his job up for maybe some question then?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
We'll see it in training camp, and he's not practicing now because he's rehabbing and getting ready that way. So we'll see when we get out to Oxnard. Well, heck, maybe he's gonna be cut in 2 days because I'm not being told the right things. But
Sure.
I think you look at his number, his contract, and things like that. It's not like it's completely out of whack, or he's making $9 million a year and he shouldn't. And then you got to work something out there. So I think Donovan Wilson might be a guy that, when you look at what Eberflus has had at safeties and even when he was around here in Indianapolis and in Chicago, maybe that's a guy that finds some rejuvenation a little bit and is maybe used a little bit differently than he was in the last couple of years.
Todd, what would you say, which side of the ball do you feel like you have more concerns or questions about right now?
Boy, that's a good one. I'd probably go defense, not because of what you see talent-wise, but it's just a new coach, a new scheme, a new approach with different coaches all over the place. On offense, there's new coaches, but the bones of the offense, as Schottenheimer said today, remain the same. The quarterback is still the same guy. So I guess my concerns on offense are mitigated because you know what you're going to get out of Dak. You're going to get very good play for a good portion of the season. They'll be you assume they're going to be in the playoff chase because every time he's played 16 or 17 games, they've been in that all but 1 or 2 years of his career. So I would probably say defense, just because it's the third coordinator in 3 years. You got guys going to be asked to do something different again from what they were able to do. Who knows about this cornerback spot right now? With tell me who the nickel guy is. Like, is it going to be Deron Bland? Maybe. Is Trayvon Diggs going to be healthy? I don't know. He's not been around the team here, so there's a lot of questions. I would probably say more more concerned or questions about the defense at this point than I am about the offense. Even if you got a new running back, you add a new wide receiver, there's talent and ability that you see on the offense, that how it can work together, but the defense probably has more question marks.
It's Todd Archer here with you in the GBAG Nation. And Todd, I did make that joke about Dak, but I think the Cowboys can win big with him. Where do you weigh in on that? Like, can the Cowboys win a Super Bowl with Dak? How good does the rest of the team have to be around him? That kind of deal.
I think you hit it right there. I think the team and the rest of the team has to be really good too. And that's part of the reason why they brought in George Pickens, right? It's funny to me how one addition of a guy like George Pickens has kind of flipped the narrative of what the Cowboys offense can be. Before that, it was, man, the Cowboys, they have CeeDee Lamb and nobody else. And now it's all of a sudden they've added Pickens. You're like, all right, Pickens and CD, man, that's a really good combo. And now you got Jalen Tolbert probably in his right spot. And, hey, don't forget Jake Ferguson was a Pro Bowler a couple of years ago. And, Javonte Williams, hey, he has a background. And Miles Sanders, hey, was a 1,300-yard running back a couple of years ago and blew his speed. So that kind of flipped everything. But I as far as Dak in a Super Bowl, I think he has the chance to be a Super Bowl quarterback if the pieces around him play at an extremely high level as well. He's played well enough to be a quarterback that can get deep in the playoffs. Now he didn't play well, obviously, against Green Bay a couple years ago, struggled in the San Francisco games. So there's questions. And again, he's fighting history here. I think since 1970, there's only been 3 quarterbacks that have been their team starter for as long as Dak will be and made a playoff for the first time. I think Peyton was year 9, Matt Ryan was year 9, and Ken Anderson in Cincinnati was year 9 or 10. All those guys were right around there where they went to a Super Bowl for the first time. That's over the last, help me out here, is that 50 years? 40 years? 50 years?
Yeah.
50 years, right?
Almost
so
the entire
that's
era.
fighting history.
Yeah.
That's fighting history right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe since 1980. That he, not saying it's impossible, but history kind of tells you how this thing shapes up. And then again, you look at the rest of the conference, the rest of the division, the rest of look at the AFC. So, but I do think Dak can get there. I do think the Cowboys can get there with Dak, provided everybody around him is playing well as well.
Todd, did they do enough to catch or close ground with the Eagles? And even maybe, and I know they did a nice job a couple times there against the Commanders, but did they do enough to close ground with the Eagles?
Amen. I'll give you the I don't know answer because I wonder if Philly, there's a natural regression. Like we don't see teams repeat as champions in this division. It's been 20-something years since that's happened. So there will be a natural regression from the Eagles. And again, that was a team that was in a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, started great and fell apart. So, how is their injury situation going to fare this year compared to other teams? Are they going to have their quarterback the entire season? Are they going to I think they lost some pieces on their defense that could hurt them. Yeah. And and that's something that can bite them. The Washington thing to me is interesting because I'll go back to they won 6 games last year in the last 30 seconds of either overtime or regulation. So there's no way they're going to do that again, right? So if you just win 3 of those games, if you go 3-3 instead of 6-0, that's a 9-win season. So there's you would think there might be some regression there. So I mean, Philly still goes in as the favorite. Washington's clearly would be the number 2 choice, but I wouldn't discount the Cowboys from surprising a lot of people this year.
What about the running back?
Boy, what am I doing?
No, I'm with you.
You're wild.
That's the way the NFC goes.
Kool-Aid!
The NFL's a strange lady, right, Brian? But what about the running back room? What have you seen so far in these practices and kind of where it's at? Is that good enough?
Yeah, I mean, is that good enough? It's better than it was last year, which we knew wasn't. I guess that wasn't good enough. I thought a guy today that stood out was Miles Sanders.
Okay.
I think what the outside perception of Miles Sanders is right now is not what they think of him inside the building. Mm-hmm. And I say that in part because of where his locker is situated. Like we make too much of this stuff, but his locker is one of like the first ones in a corner where they kind of strategically put guys. And I thought it was interesting that he was put in that spot. So that tells you what, that they have a respect for him and what he can do. And then Carolina was probably maybe more about how he fit or didn't fit in what the Panthers running game was and how he would be a better fit here. But Javonte Williams has had a couple good sessions from what we've seen. Based on what we saw of Blue in Texas, you see a big play guy. He had a little run today where I thought it was Stephen Jones' comment when we got him a couple weeks ago. Like when you watch guys run and on tape and there's a 4.4 guy, and you say, yeah, man, he doesn't look like he's a 4.4 guy. But then you look at Jaden Blue run times at a 4.4, and Stephen said, the time you watch him play, you think he's a 4.2 or 4.3 guy. There was one of those today that kind of caught your eye with the burst that he showed. So I don't think they're going to be straight committee, but I think they're clearly going on the offensive line will make the running backs better with how they've approached the position this year.
Were you singing along to the Tupac and DMX over the loudspeakers?
Well, Bobby Belt asked me what my favorite Tupac song was, if that was it, and I came up with Dear Mama. Is that the one? What's
good tune. Hey Mama.
That's it, right?
Yes, right? Sir.
Hey Mama, Dear Mama.
Me Against the World.
Mama, I don't know.
Or Dear Mama. Appreciate you, Todd.
There you go.
You're the man, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. See you, folks.